It was a freezing November morning in downtown Chicago when Lily, a tired young waitress, wiped the condensation off the cafe window and sighed. She had been on her feet since 6 a.m., serving steaming cups of coffee to business people who barely looked up from their phones. Her shoes were worn, her paycheck barely covered rent, and her eyes held that familiar mix of exhaustion and quiet hope, the kind that comes from believing that maybe, just maybe, life would be kinder tomorrow. The bell over the cafe door jingled softly, and she turned to greet another customer. But instead of the usual rush of suits and laptops, a man stood there shivering, with torn gloves and hollow eyes. His beard was unkempt, his coat ripped at the shoulder, and his shoes looked like they'd walked miles through misery. He hovered near the door as though he didn't belong. The manager shot him a disapproving glance and muttered, "Lily, don't let him bother the customers. You know how people get." But Lily saw something else. Kindness hidden beneath weariness, dignity behind defeat. She grabbed a menu and smiled. "Sir, would you like some coffee? Maybe something warm to eat?" The man hesitated. I don't have money," he mumbled, his voice rough and uncertain. "It's all right," Lily said softly. "Breakfast is on me." He looked at her like she had just handed him the world. "You don't have to." "I know," she said, cutting him off with a gentle smile. "But everyone deserves a hot meal, especially on a cold morning." She brought him scrambled eggs, toast, and a steaming cup of coffee. He ate slowly, savoring each bite, his eyes occasionally flicking up as if to make sure this wasn't some cruel trick. "What's your name?" Lily asked as she refilled his cup. "James," he replied quietly. "Thank you, miss. You've been kind. More than most." "You're welcome, James," she said, smiling as she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Take care of yourself, okay?" He nodded, finished his meal, and slipped out quietly into the cold, leaving behind only a faint warmth where he had been sitting. The manager frowned when he saw the unpaid bill. "You can't keep doing this, Lily," he scolded. "We can't feed every stranger who walks in." Lily just shrugged. "I know," she whispered. "But sometimes a little kindness is all someone has left." The next morning, the cafe buzzed with its usual rhythm, coffee brewing, orders called out, laughter mingling with the hum of traffic outside. Lily was serving a group of regulars when the door opened again. A tall man in a charcoal suit stepped in, polished shoes glinting and confidence in every stride. His neatly trimmed beard and warm brown eyes made him look familiar, but Lily couldn't place him. He scanned the room until his gaze landed on her. "Good morning," he said with a smile that made her pause. "I believe you're the one who helped me yesterday." Lily blinked. Wait, you're—" "James," he nodded. "Yes, though I suppose I didn't look much like myself then." The manager glanced up from the counter, his jaw tightening as he realized who this was. You're the same man?" "I am," James said, his voice calm but commanding. "I came to thank this young woman for her kindness." Lily's cheeks flushed. "You don't have to—" "Actually, I do," he interrupted, pulling out a sleek leather wallet. "You see, I wasn't always homeless. I lost everything 2 years ago when my company collapsed during a market crash. I spent months on the streets trying to find my footing again. Yesterday was the first time in a long while someone looked at me like I was human." "You did?" The cafe had gone silent, every eye on them. "That meal reminded me of something I'd forgotten. Hope," James continued. "It pushed me to make one more phone call, to an old business partner I'd avoided out of pride. That call changed everything. As of this morning, we've revived my company, and I came back to do something important." He turned to the stunned manager. "I'm buying this cafe." Gasps rippled through the room. Lily's hand trembled, the tray nearly slipping from her grasp. "You're what?" she whispered. "Buying it," James said, smiling. "And I want you, Lily, to be the new manager." "Me?" "But I don't know how to run a place like this." "You already do," he said gently. "You run it with compassion. That's something no amount of training can teach." Tears welled in Lily's eyes as she stared at him speechless. The manager, still pale, stammered something about needing to check with the owner, but James calmly placed a signed contract on the counter. "Already done. I closed the deal an hour ago." The staff erupted into murmurs, some in disbelief, others smiling behind their hands. Lily could barely breathe. "Why would you do this?" she asked softly. "Because you reminded me what it means to care," James replied. "You gave when you had little. Now it's my turn. That day, the cafe changed forever. James renovated it, renamed it Second Chance Café, and hired local people struggling to get back on their feet. Veterans, single parents, and the homeless, trying to rebuild their lives. Lily, now managing the place, greeted everyone with the same warmth she had shown James that cold morning. Months later, she found herself standing at the counter again, watching a young mother counting pennies for coffee. Without hesitation, Lily smiled and said, "It's on the house." The woman's eyes filled with gratitude, and Lily suddenly realized the circle had completed itself. Kindness had come full circle, like the soft echo of a good deed whispered back through time. James often dropped by, sitting at the same corner table where he'd once eaten in silence. Now he came in with investors, employees, and sometimes just to sip coffee quietly while watching Lily work. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the Chicago skyline, he approached her with a smile. "You know," he said, "I've learned that wealth isn't in what you keep. It's in what you give." Lily nodded, her heart full. "And sometimes," she said, "the smallest act of kindness can rewrite someone's story." The cafe door opened again. A bell chimed, and another stranger stepped in, cold, uncertain, and lost. Lily smiled. "Welcome to Second Chance Café," she said. "Come in. You look like you could use something warm." And in that small corner of a bustling city, kindness quietly kept changing lives, one cup of coffee at a time.